Shabbos. Hilchos Shabbos. So, Chavetz Chaim wrote very famously Chelik Gimel, Mishnah Berurah, which is all about Hilchos Shabbos. In the Hakdama, the Chavetz Chaim explains to you what's so incredible about Shabbos. It's a lengthy Hakdama. It's actually quite fascinating. I think many people learn Mishnah Berurah and they don't learn the Hakdama. Hakdamas in all Sfarim are famously famous. But this Hakdama, I don't know why it doesn't get that much airtime. But the Chavetz Chaim writes, he explains about Shmir Shabbos, but just a few lines I want to pick out over here. He says, you should know, we have 248 mitzvahs, which is Keneged, the 248 limbs of the body. And every mitzvah that you do is corresponding to a different limb. And he says, but then there are some Avarim that life depends on. The life depends on. And what's that? He says that's the ruah, that's the brain and the heart. And he says that's Keneged Shabbos Kodesh. That Shabbos is a limb of the body that the life depends upon. And that's the reason why he says here, V'yishin yonim shem neged roish v'alev. Shem ikar chiyas nefesh hakadoisha. K'may emuna b'Hashem, just like emuna is fundamental, like we just spoke about. Ve'inyan shmir Shabbos tu gam king yisoid ha'emuna. Baruch Hashem, like we just said. Tim yachzer la'inyanim b'heim. If you're lacking in this, nistalik, you lost your whole life. And he says that's why we have to work on shmir Shabbos. Shmir Shabbos kalacha brings you kapara and all your averos. He continues. Kol ha'mishamer Shabbos kil chasai. You get all the wonderful things. Kol ha'ma'anig is a Shabbos. Okay. But then he continues. And he says the reasons why you have to learn Hilchos Shabbos, he says, is, Shabbos is big. So, how do we get to that point? Ha'itza Ye'utza is Lazari's Lilmoid Hilchos Shabbos. If you learn it, then eventually you can get there. Then he continues and he says, you can know about all the inyanim of Shabbos. You can know about all the Kedushas Shabbos, which is beautiful, amazing, incredible. But he says, but if you don't know the halacha, it's almost a joke. It's always a joke. And unfortunately, you see that, we can be makbid on the Kedusha Shabbos, which is incredible and amazing. But we have to know the very basic halacha. So where would you start if you were to learn Hilchos Shabbos? Where would you start? So many different areas. So some people would say, well, you're smarter than the Chavetz Chaim. If you want to know where to start, you're smarter than Chavetz Chaim. You're smarter than Rav Yosef Kairoi. Go to the beginning of Hilchos Shabbos, which is what? Reish Mem Beis is Kavod Shabbos. Okay. That's one avenue. Some people would say start with the malachai. Some people would say let's look for that which is the most relevant halacha. So you're wondering why in the world did I choose Refuah? Why did I choose Refuah? So let me read you a Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says about a choyle sheyesh boi sakana. Says the Yerushalmi. It's in Yuma Paraches Halacha Hey. In Rabbi Silverman's Thoughts on page 3180, if you were looking for it as well. Tani, you can read along with me. It doesn't bother me. We're nothing to hide. Hazariz mishubach. If your zar is in a chayla, a heart attack, mishubach. Vahanishal, nishal. Who's the nishal? There's the shoyel and the nishal. Shoyel is the guy asking the question. The nishal is the rav getting asked the question. Says the Yerushalmi, Hazar is mishubach. The nishal is a miguna, is disgusting. V'hashoyel, and the one that asks the shayla is shayfech damim. So pretty extreme Yerushalmi. And the question is, what's going on over here? So let's take it backwards. The shayel, he's a shayfech damim. Why? The guy has a heart attack. And he's busy running around to find the Rav and ask him, should I call Hatzalah? Heart attack. Hazar is harizeh mishubach. In a moment of sakana, you don't ask questions. Wait, but do I call? Do I use a shinoi? What would you do on a Tuesday? On Tuesday, I would pick up my phone and call. So pick up your phone and call. Which we parenthetically mentioned. This has been something that's been bothering me since I heard about this. So we live in a world, and many of us, I don't want to go into anyone's houses over here. But many houses in Klal Yisrael do not have landlines anymore. Is there anyone here that doesn't have a landline? No one. Okay, anyone under a certain age? There you go. Okay, perfect. So if you don't have a landline, so what do you do in Erev Shabbos? We're Shomer Shabbos, right? So we take our phones and we turn it off. Givaldik. So a Hatzalah member told me the other week how he's heard at numerous calls that the people said that, yeah, God forbid, the kid was whatever, and then we had to turn on the phone. How long does it take your phone to start off? Depends. Android phones take about 2 minutes. Apple phones take about a minute. That's a long time. That's a very long time. I don't know why this is not more publicity. Yeah, I know. I switched my phone, so I had to switch. Listen, what do you want? Listen. It's the way it goes in life. But I said to him, I don't know why don't people make a big deal about this? I think this is very common, and I think we have to make a big deal. So whatever amount of people are sitting in this room, chaver islay, everyone tells a friend. And if you think about it, it is crazy to think about that you could have a house that you have no phone on, and it's God forbid it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you need to do something. What are you going to do now? Oh, let's start running to the neighbor. You're crazy. Let's go. And how many times do you forget? Must Shabbos. Okay, you forgot where you put your phone. It happens. Okay, maybe not. Maybe if you don't forget, you're a little bit too attached to it. Whatever it is. But people do forget where their phones are. So to me, when I heard about this, I felt this is extremely important, and I'm doing mine by telling everyone. Why am I doing mine? Because what do the Yerushalmi say? The nishal harezeh meguna. So the Gaon in Mishlei and Tzitz Eliezer brings this. When he quotes it, he says the Maimer Chazal, the nishal is a shefich damim. The nishal, why? Because the Rav should have gotten up and darshaned birabim. Har zariz harei zeh mishubach. If there's a chaylet, you call Hatzalah. Finished. Our Chashochan starts off Simin Shin Chav Ches Hashayel harei zeh meguna hanishal harei zeh shevich damim. So we don't want to be a shayel, which is he splits it. If you're listening, the Aruch HaShulchan switched the two in the Yerushalmi. He says the shayel is the meguna and the nishal is the shevich damim. I don't know, the Aruch HaShulchan was a Rav, so maybe he was willing to take the brunt of it, I'm not sure. Or maybe he was doing his own, he was publicizing it to the world. But either way, Hashayel, when something is a sakana, we don't think we act. How far does that go? As far as your brain on a Tuesday would take it, that's how far on Shabbos it goes. Meaning, if on a Tuesday you would call Hatzalah, you call Hatzalah on Shabbos. Now, there does come a point that obviously it's not a sakana. And maybe you would call on a Tuesday because they would get you into hospital. You know, there are other reasons, whether it's right or wrong in the world of Hatzalah, but it's true. There are other times one might call Hatzalah when it's not a sakanas nefashos. We're not talking about those cases. In cases of sakanas nefashos, that's halacha number 1. I have to do my own, so we don't have the nishal being meguna, the nishal being a shevich damim. Is there any sort of sakanas nefashos, even a suffix sakanas nefashos, you pick up the phone, you call. Number 1 is now you're going to have the phone on Emir Tashem. You'll pick up the phone, you'll call. And that is halacha number 1. And that's what we're starting with, Hilchas Refuah. Because as the Chavetz Chaim taught us, you know, you can all in Yonei Shabbos, but not know halacha. You can all halacha Shabbos, and then, God forbid, what happens? You have to whatever, and then all of a sudden you're whatever. So that is number 1. I don't think there could be any questions, but I'll pause for a moment if anyone has any questions. Not because it was so clear. That's not what I meant. I meant it's pretty simple. Is that if there's a sakana, you call. Finished. Now, is there ever a time to not call? Now, that has to be very clear. So then if you forget everything else, you got that. Is there ever a time to not call? The answer is yes. There are times, and I don't know if we're going to go all the way into this area today, but we all know that, of course, Hatzalah has 1,000,000 times faster response than any other, 911, etc. But let's say it's completely not a sakana, but you're calling because, again, many people are wondering, what do you mean completely not a sakana? Who are you to know? And if you feel that way, or your spouse feels that way, that's perfectly fine. Whichever one feels that way, then it is a mutter. Suffix sakanas nefashos is mutter. His mutter is mutter. We can't overstate that enough. I'll give you just another random example. Suffix sakanas nefashos. We all know that Shabbos lamps go on fire. If we don't know, then you haven't been zeicha yet. Shabbos lamps go on fire, or you buy the right bulbs. If you buy the wrong bulbs, a lot of public service announcements today. If you buy the wrong bulbs for your Shabbos bulb, why? Because you don't want to spend the $10 in the Jewish store, so you think you'll be smart, and you buy a bulb that fixes. Well, guess what? The bulb that you fit that fixes gets very hot, and it burns. Has anyone ever had a shot? Yeah, we've had at least one here? Okay. That's a small sampling. We've had one Shabbos lamp. I've been zeicha, not in my own house, whatever, but I've been zeicha to Shabbos lamps that have gone on fire. So what do you do? Well, is it a sakana? It's if a sakana, do what you would do on a Tuesday. Now, obviously, there's always the rules of you're supposed to be mimayit in Chol Shabbos, of course. Of course, and if you catch it early, then of course, find a guy and ask a guy to do it. If you catch it early, figure out another way, 100%. I think we all have that nostalgic picture in Rabbi Ribiat's book, and this is not to hate in the book, Baruch Hashem, at least we learned something in our life, of the water. No, I'm the only one with that nostalgic picture? You have that nostalgia. No one else? I don't believe it. You have another one. Yeah. He says if there's a fire, first you take bags of water, and he's right. He's quoting a Stephen Shulchan Aruch. You take bags of water and you put it around so the fire goes and it blows up the bags and it puts it out. It's all true, but it's a little bit not really kalacha, because usually if there's a fire, I don't know, start getting baggies of water. If it works, I shouldn't belittle it. It's true. That is the halacha Shulchan Aruch. But God forbid, if there's a fire spreading and you're trying to look for the Ziploc bags, no, don't take the sound. Don't take the good ones. Take the sandwich ones. Not so, whatever. So what would you do? Again, if it gets to a point of real sikanas nefashos, of course you put out the fire. But let's say in the Shabbos slam, what do you do? So, okay, of course you could ask the guy, or you pull out the plug with the shinoi. Why? Because you always minimize Chil Shabbos. So much so, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach writes in the Shmir Shabbos, you're driving to the hospital on Shabbos. Why are you driving to the hospital? You're driving to the hospital for a good reason. Woman's in labor, so you're driving to the hospital. He says theoretically, and I say theoretically, I don't know if he says that, when you drive, there are ways to drive in a fashion of less malacha. Theoretically, you do more coasting and less stopping, and don't put on the blinkers, use hand signals out the windows. Yeah, so I saw one of the contemporary halach, emergency in halach, I think it's called. He writes, if you're proficient in such a manner of driving, then great. But if not, and your wife is screaming, just drive and get to the hospital. Or, this is the reason why we say kol hatzala, because they know what to do, and we don't. They know what malacha they could do, they know malacha they can't do, and that's another reason. But of course, again, and this will end, part A, which is more of the hakdama. If you have a hatzala member, that's your neighbor, and it's not at all time sensitive, so go knock on his door. Of course, there's a level of minimizing, and he'll know right away whether he should radio in, whether he should, and he knows the halachas, they know the halachas, and they know the medical. So of course, if one is able to, of course, that's a higher level. If one knows that it's nothing, and you could call 911, and they'll come in 45 minutes, and in 45 minutes they'll be able to take care of whatever it is, great. But in any case of suffix sakana, how far does suffix sakana go? So it says Shulchan Aruch, in Shin Chav Tes, it goes very, very far. Even we're in Machal Shabbos for v'chai behem lo sheyamos behem. We want to save life. How much life do we want to save? We want to save even one moment of life. We're Machal Shabbos. If you think about it, it's an incredible thing. You could have a 119-year-old guy lying on his deathbed, and he's going to be nifter in a few minutes. So maybe the doctor should say, Ad Khan, what am I doing? What am I busy helping him? The answer is no. We're Machal Shabbos, even the Raisas, for one moment of life. We're Machal Shabbos, even for an Uber's moment of life, meaning a fetus inside a woman. We're Machal Shabbos, even for a child. Again, these are all large sugyas, but we're even Machal Shabbos. We're even to make the pain less. Which is something that's going to come back to us. Shlomo Zalman writes that based off of Shin Chav Tes Sifdalet over here, that even, you have a chayla mesukon, you have a chayla sheish mesukana, someone, God forbid, in the hospital, and he's in a lot of pain, can you be Machal Shabbos to give him extra medication? The answer is yes, and the reason is because it fights off the disease better. So that's really chayla sheish mesukana. There's one big shayla, which is not really relevant for anyone in this room, and it's really relevant for no one. And this is the shayla whether you could drive back from a Hatzalah call. And the reason why it's not relevant for any of us is because if you are the paisik for Hatzalah deciding this, then why in the world are you listening to me give a shir? And you should be up here giving the shir. If you're part of Hatzalah, then whichever Hatzalah you're part of, you're going to follow their protocol. If you're not part of Hatzalah, then you're not getting into a car and driving back in Shabbos. So there's no reason this is relevant. Just to give you just a little bit of the sugya to know what's going on. In Lakewood, they have Goyim driving back. In Muncie, they have Goyim driving back. In Borough Park, they have Goyim driving back. In Flatbush and in the 5 towns, they have Yidden driving back. So what's going on over here, just to give a little bit so we know what's going on, is you know what, I might want to talk about this at length because it's a fascinating sugya. I'll just say where the heter comes from. The heter comes from Ramesha. Ramesha writes in Orach Chaim Chilik Dalet Siman Pei that if we don't allow a Hatzalah member to drive back, he's going to be hesitant to go on the next call. And that's where the heter comes for them to drive back. Now, whether there's always a lechatchil to have goyim. It's a larger sugya. It could be maybe we'll deal with it in depth. There's a steer in Shulchan Aruch, but that's a little bit more advanced. We'll get there. So from here, let's go into regular hilch. That's a chayla sheyesh b'sakana. No one should ever have to deal with that. And of course, if one is ever dealing with an elderly, or one is ever in a hospital with someone who is a chayla misukon, there's a million shaylas to deal with, which we're not discussing now. But that's just part A. When you learn Hilchos Refuah, is the incredible value that we have to life, and that we're mechalel Shabbos. It's not a chalel Shabbos, it's a mitzvah. Hazariz, hareizim mishubach. So much so, what happens if the Hatzalah guy shows up and it's a false call? Was he mechal Shabbos? No. He was being Isaac in v'chai b'hem, in saving a life, even if multiple Hatzalah members come. Good. Let's leave Hatzalah and let's move on to regular Hilchos Refuah. So what is Refuah on Shabbos? What's Refuah on Shabbos? So Refuah on Shabbos is a Gzeir D'Rabbanan. It's a Gzeir D'Rabbanan. I'm not sure where to start because I don't know what people know. Because, sometimes if everyone knows what you're talking about, then it's just boring. If no one knows what you're talking about, then you're talking Chinese. So I'm not sure where to start. So I'll start with mentioning there's different levels of a chayla. Different levels of a chayla and how that applies. Then we'll go dive a little bit deeper. There's different levels of a chayla, meaning the highest level we just spoke about is chayla sheyesh b'sakana. What's the halacha of a chayla sheyesh b'sakana? The halacha is, it's Tuesday. The halacha is, Hazariz, Harizim, Meshubach. Now, is that always? So then why, let me ask you a question. If a woman goes into labor, I think everyone here knows, you don't right away call Hatzalah. Call a cab first. Call a non-Jew to drive you. What's the reason? Hazariz, Harizim, Meshubach. So the answer is, and each one of these things are lengthy sugyas, but the answer is that if it's not time, this way the Aruch HaShulchan explains it, if it's not time sensitive, then there's no reason to go for the highest level of Chilul Shabbos. Now, a woman in labor is the easiest example of a non-time sensitive Chilul Sheish B'Sakana. Now, let's just give all the disclaimers. This does not mean that you should wait until the baby's coming out of the dining room table and then call Hatzalah and have a mess in your dining room. We did not just say that. And if someone thought we did, then, okay, listen, you got to be careful. What it means is, if one knows that it's not time sensitive, how does one know? One knows. If you don't know, then your wife knows. And if she doesn't know, then yes, get into the cab before having this discussion. But at the point that it's not time sensitive, at this point, it's called a non-time sensitive Chilul Sheish B'Sakana. And there the halach is you're supposed to use Goyim first. You're supposed to use Goyim first. And the reason is to be memayit, to minimize the malacha that you're doing. Very simple. And that's the reason why you would call a cab. You would call a cab. If the hospital is inside the chum, outside the chum, things get complicated. We're going to have to get into there one day. But let's go to the next level. What's the next level of chayla? Under chayla sheish b'sakana is not a chayla she'ein b'sakana. There's one in between. It's chayla sheish b'sakana. That's someone who's deathly ill. Chayla she'ein b'sakana is over here. In between, there's something called sakanas aver. Sakanas aver means there's a risk to a limb. There's risk to a limb that has its own levels of halacha. The next level underneath that is a chayla she'ein b'sakana. Then there's something called a mechush ba'alma. There's another level maybe in between over there which we're not going to get involved in. Let's discuss, and let's start with which is what hopefully is most relevant to everyone, is a mechush, and we'll explain in a moment, versus a chayla she'ein b'sakana. That is what's going to Mirz Hashem happen in every single household at some level. Why is that going to happen? A mechush means you're in discomfort. A mechush means you have a headache. A mechush means you have a common cold. A mechush means, I don't want to give more examples because then things get emotional, as they say. But mechush means you're fine. You went to work that morning. There was no problem. You're feeling a little under the weather. That is a mechush. Chayla she'ein b'sakana is bedridden. Chayla kol gufa. Your whole body hurts. Now, do you have to be in bed? The answer is no. Says the Shulchan Aruch in Shin Chav Ches Sif Yud Zayin. Says the Shulchan Aruch, do you have to be in bed? Absolutely not. The Ramah says, Ki nafal lemishkav. It's like one falls to bed, and the simple example is, let's say on a Tuesday, you wake up, the whole body's hurting, you feel like you have the flu, but Lamaisi, you have a big meeting. What are you going to do? Okay, so the world of Zoom, you're going to take it over Zoom, and the world of getting everyone sick, okay, give everyone the flu, okay. Let's go back to nostalgic world where we weren't so worried about getting everyone sick with the flu, and there wasn't such a thing as doing everything electronically. What do? You put on a scarf and you would go to work. Finished. No? Yes? Come on, someone a little bit older. That's what you do. Okay, finish. No? That's what you do. Back in yeshiva, what do you do? Say finish. And nowadays, it's all Suffolk COVID, so maybe you can't go to yeshiva for the next 2 weeks. It's okay. It's okay, so don't breathe on the guy. If you want to be machmer, put on a mask. Okay, whatever it is. Let's leave that discussion out of here. So, are you a chayla? The answer is yes. You just happen to need to go somewhere. Ki nafal lemishkav lashon of the Rama is mitztayer v'chayla mimenu kol gufay. And he says, even though you're walking around, ki nafal lemishkav damis. These are two categories. These two categories are the biggest two categories in the world of chayla. Why? The reason is there was a gezira derabanan that was made. There's a gezira derabanan that was made, patterned after how did they used to make medicine? They used to take herbs and they would crush them up, and that was your medicine. In some parts of the world, it's coming back very, very strongly, maybe not just for medicinal purposes. But listen, people are back into their pestle and mortar, which is which? Pestle and mortar, anyone know? Pestle and mortar. Which is which? The mortar is the? Bowl. Where is the bowl? Okay, good. Pestle is? The guy. Okay. And everyone who didn't answer is saying, thank you for telling me. Okay, so the pestle is the guy, what does that mean? So the pestle is the guy, and the mortar is the guy. And you go and you make medicine. Comes along Chazal, and Chazal make a Gezeira Derabanan. Chazal make a Gezeira Derabanan that you're not allowed to take any medicine on Shabbos. Why not? Isn't Shabbos supposed to be for Einek? Isn't Shabbos supposed to be the day to enjoy yourself? I have a headache. Why can't I go pop 2 Advil? Say Chazal for one very simple reason. Because we're worried, if we allow you to get involved in medicines, what are you going to end up doing? You're going to come to grind up medicines on Shabbos, and therefore, it is usher to take medicines on Shabbos. When is it usher to take medicines on Shabbos? Why is it usher to take medicines on Shabbos? I know I just said it, but there's a little bit of a deeper explanation. When is it usher? When you are sick. At what level of sickness? Those are the 2 levels we just created. If you're a mechosh, if you are a little bit feeling under the weather, the common cold, a little bit of a headache, you're not allowed to take medicine. Because Chazal say that Adam is bahul, a person is preoccupied with himself, and if we allow you to take medicine, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is you're going to lead to grinding up medication, and therefore it is forbidden. Asks Rav Chaim, asks Ksesa Shulchan, the $1 million question that maybe people are thinking. He says, I don't understand. Nowadays, where do we get medicine from? I don't think we grow it in the backyard, and if we do, we're not telling anyone about it. Where do we get medicine? We go to the pharmacy and we buy medicine. So why are we so worried, and why is there a gezira dirabanan that we can't take medicine? Why don't we suggest batal atam, batal gezira? Asks the Ksesa Shulchan very famously. Ksesa Shulchan himself, often misquoted, is not megal. He does not get rid of the gezira. He says he's willing to be mitzarif in certain scenarios that perhaps will be a little bit more lenient. Why? There's many answers. The easiest answer is, let's say the answer Moshe Feinstein writes in the Tshuva. Says Moshe, why was this gezira on medicine made? So I just told you, right? Because you might come grind up medicine. That's not what Moshe says. Moshe says you might also come to cook up medicine. You might also come to over other milachais in making medicine. Moshe learned the Gemara that the Gemara was just giving the most classical way of making medicine. But if there are other ways of making medicine, which certainly exist nowadays, even many of the things that we get from the pharmacy, we have to mix. Okay, mixing the strep thingy isn't malacha, but there are probably medicines you have to heat up. There certainly are pastes and thick medicines that are forbidden to make on Shabbos. And therefore, utilizing the reason of Ramosha, the gezerah is 100% still chai v'kayim, and therefore it is still forbidden. And the other answer to this question is, usually we don't say batal atam, batal gezerah. That's not the way we usually go with it. Why not? Is because we're not big enough to do it, which is what Rav Chaim Shulchan himself says, and therefore we have such a gezerah. But where does the gezerah apply? Only if you are a mechosh. But if you're a chayla she'ein bo sakana, there is no gezerah. Therefore, if you have a minor headache, you're not allowed to take Advil. If you have a migraine headache, you're allowed to take Advil. If you have the common flu, the common cold, you're not allowed to take medicine. If you have a flu, debatable if there is medicine, I'm not going to get involved, then you're allowed to take medicine for the flu. Why? Because your whole body aches. And now we mentioned, which I think I mentioned some of the chavra over here, the incredible words of Rosh Hashanah Zalman Auerbach, which comes from the Shelas Tshuvas Radvaz. Let me preface with what I just saw last night from Rav David Feinstein. What if you're not sure? You're not sure. Classic story. You're just not sure. What do you mean you're not sure? I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. I have headache. I don't have headache. Some people are more prone to be bedridden, and some people aren't. Is there Xera or not? So Rav David Feinstein writes that a suffix you could be mekel, which is interesting. Very bold psak. Very bold psak. That's what Rav David writes. Now, can someone be Saimich on Rav David? Probably. Again, you have to know what he means by a suffix, obviously. But more than that, let's go into Rosh Hashanah Zalman. Says Rosh Hashanah Zalman, what if right now you wake up Shabbos morning and you have a little bit of headache? But by the time 2 o'clock comes, that headache is not going to be little anymore. That's going to be a full-blown migraine. And the migraine chaver, do you have any migraine people here? Anyone? No migraine people? Baruch Hashem. But the migraine people, that wasn't an insult, it's part of life. The migraine people, they know there's, what are they called? There's signs that a migraine's coming on. And if they nip it in the bud, it could prevent the migraine. If they don't, they get a full-blown on migraine. There's some different whatevers. And therefore, would one be allowed to take medicine at an earlier stage? Says Rosh Hashanah Zalman, basically Shabbos Tshuvas Radvaz, yes. Yes, you do not have to wait. What's the reason? Very simple. Chazal are not sadistic. It's a Nisa D'Rabbanan. Chazal created Nisa D'Rabbanan. Now, if you know you're going to get there, what Chazal said, wait till you're in pain and then take the medicine. That's crazy. Says Rosh Hashanah Zalman, therefore, one in such a scenario is allowed to take medicine. Beautiful. Is there anything else a chayla could do? Medicine is one, but there's often other things. We're getting into the winter. You have a newborn baby, and you forgot to turn on the heat in the baby's room. We're getting into the winter, and you have a newborn baby, and the light's left on in the kid's room. Is there anything else? You're getting into, we'll just blame everything on the winter for now. We're getting into the winter, and a pregnant woman, what does she need? Everything. No, what does she need? Aside from the tub of ice cream. No, what does she need? Whatever she needs. Examples will come as we go along. Are all these things, what's the story with all these things? Meaning, is the heter only on medicine, or can you do actual malacha? Let's say for the case of a cut, someone has a bad cut. Are you allowed to put cream on a bad cut? Putting cream is an isser, to place cream. So this is where we now understand that whenever we're going to discuss Refuah Shayla, there's always two things we have to keep in mind. And this is the reason why it gets a little bit complicated. Number one, we have to keep in mind that there's a new Isser called Refuah. What is that Isser called Refuah? You're not allowed to heal yourself on Shabbos. That's a new Isser. But by the way, the other 39 malachos didn't go anywhere. They still exist. So if there's another malacha that one is going to encounter by trying to heal the person, that's also going to be usher. But is there ever a case that will be lenient on other malachis? So this comes into a Shulchan Aruch and Shidduch Chav Ches, Sif Yud Zayin. Sif Yud Zayin is dealing with a chayla she'in by sakana. There's 4 shitas, and we paskin like the shita shlishis over here. The third shita, and it says as follows. The third shita says that when you have a chayla she'in by sakana, we are makel to do a shvos derabanan. Bishinoi, excuse me. Shvos is derabanan. A shvos bishinoi. Shvos bishinoi. What does that mean? That means if someone has a chayla she'in by sakana, you can do a derabanan with shinoi. What's the easiest example? Easy example is going to be a lot of creams, like a runny creams, not a thick cream, a runny cream. You could apply it with a shinoi. Why not apply it with a shinoi? There's an issa derabanan to apply creams on Shabbos. The answer is, if someone is a nafal lemishkav, if someone is a chayla she'ein boi sakana, then one is allowed to do derabanans with a shinoi. Now, if you're thinking you should have a problem, the question is, how are you allowed to take medicine? We just said that you're allowed to take medicine, but don't you have to do derabbanan with a shinui? Taking medicine is a derabbanan. So you should have to take the medicine with a shinui. Let me, this is the Bir Halachas Kasha. One more time. You have an issa derabbanan to take medicine. What? But the no gzeira only allowed to do derabbanans with a shinui. So the derabbanan was done. So one nusach is like Rabbi Katzir is saying, very good. One nusach to answer the kasha is they were loy gazer. They were loy gazer in the case of chayil shein by sekana. That's one way of answering the question. The other way of answering the question is you can't require a shinui if it's impossible to do a shinui. Taking a pill, taking medicine is something which isn't possible to do ba'if and shinui, and therefore you don't have to do it ba'if and shinui. And that's a cream, very good. Everything else would certainly have to do with a shinui. Now to realize, anything that makes you feel better is called healing yourself. Obviously, what I'm about to say, you realize there's going to be mutter, but now we're going to move along to one of the bigger teirim, and this is going to hopefully try to put everything into perspective. Someone has the common cold. So what do they want? They want a bowl of chicken soup. Now, we're not saying that mommy's chicken soup has pasha medicinal powers and heals you. We didn't just say that. No one should accuse me. But the chicken soup makes you feel better? It does. Is the chicken soup at some level do something similar to Tylenol? Yeah. Tylenol makes me feel better. Chicken soup makes me feel better. Advil makes me feel better. Chicken soup makes me feel better. Why am I allowed to have a bowl of chicken soup? Now, you all understand that obviously the answer is yes. But with this question, we're going to be able to explain a fundamental heter in all of Hilchos Refuah, which how far this heter goes really is the whole Refuah. All the Refuah in this type, meaning obviously we have the Chayla Sheyesh Beisakana Shmuz, which we'll maybe come back to a little bit, which is, getting to the hospital and all of those things. But within, and then of course doctors have their whole discussion. And then maybe we have to get to, broken limbs and things like that. But within the world of treatments that you're going to be doing in your house, why is a bowl of chicken soup mutter? So the answer to this is that there's something called in the world of halacha called a meichel briim. Food of a healthy person, food of a bari. Meichel briim is excluded from the rules of refuah. Food is excluded from the rules of refuah. Therefore, even though you have a low-grade fever, you're not bedridden, you're not nafal mishkaf, but you don't feel so good. So when you come to the Rav and you say, Rav, can I take Advil? What's the answer? The answer is, I'm sorry, you cannot take Advil. Why not? Because you're a chayla. But there's no malacha taking Advil. Correct. But it's also derabanan on Shabbos. It's a little bit of an isser that sort of, I think, got lost a little bit in the last 50 years in America. I'm not sure why. I think. That's from my travels have seen. People think, yeah, Advil Shabbos, it's a mitzvah. What do you mean? Take an extra one. Look up at Shabbos Kodesh. I see you all agree with me, Baruch Hashem. But Lamaisa, if one is a mechush, it's usher. Advil, Tylenol, aspirin, your drug of choice is all usher. But food is going to be mutter. Food is going to be mutter. Food includes all foods. What do I mean by all foods? What are other examples of foods that would fit into this category? Tea. Good. Tea. Very good. If you can make tea on Shabbos, ask your LOR. Tea. Another example will be coffee. Caffeine. Someone has a headache. Cup of coffee cures his headache. Again, his headache. Don't take issue with his headache. Maybe your headache, the caffeine won't cure. This guy's headache, caffeine will cure. Can he have a cup of coffee? The answer is yes. The chiddush is going to be, according to many paiskim, he can even take a caffeine pill. Because what is a caffeine pill? If we go into the lumdus of a caffeine pill, it is just a cup of coffee. What's the difference if you're that guy, which maybe some of us have met, that takes, a scoopful of grounds and just, takes it straight? I always wondered if it works. I don't know. I thought it needs to, I don't know. No one else has ever seen such a thing? Yeah, Avada. There's certain places in the mirror. You have to look for them. Lakewood has it also. You have to go to certain Bati Midrashim. So caffeine would be the same thing. Tums are Tums are always a good shayla. Tums, heartburn. You let take Tums in Shabbos. So what would is Tums food? Is Tums food? What are Tums? Some food? It's crazy. So I'll quote, and I'm only going to quote him b'shem because he quotes himself b'shem in Eretz Yisrael in Ma'aloi Stafna. Rav Nachum Eisenstein gets up periodically and he talks about Tums. He's a Talmud of Rav Yashiv, and he says Tums is Meichel Brian. Rebbe, Meichel Brian. I understand they make it a little flavoring in there, but no one's going to say that the bottle of children's cough syrup is. He says, what do you mean? When the kids knock on the door, this is what I give them for candy. And that's why we don't send our children into a store unattended. No, but the answer is, there definitely are people that like you're looking for a little something, you'll snack on a Tum. Whether it's normal or not, from the slight sampling in this room, yeah? But you've seen it. We've seen a guy. No one wants to say who that guy was. He might know him personally. But everyone has seen a guy that's the Meister Tums. And there are Tums. Tums is going to be mutter. Tums, sucking candies, chicken soup, a cup of tea, cup of coffee. All these things are going to be mutter. This goes so far as, let's say someone is jet lag. Same thing. Now this really gets into something a little bit deeper, which we'll see how much time we have to discuss it. Actually, before I go there, let's not go complicated. Okay? Let's make yourselves in order over here. Let's go into the next big avenue of heter. So again, so far we've seen this chayla sheish v'sakana. You got to call right away gavaldik. Now we've seen that a chayla she'ein b'sakana versus a mechush. Chayla she'ein b'sakana, bedridden, is that things are allowed. What's allowed? Medicine plus their abundance with a shinoi. Mechush, what's allowed? Nothing. Not true. Meichel Briam, food entities are allowed even for one with a minor ailment. Let's discuss certain categories of people who are quickly in one category over the next. For example, children. Any child, definitely under 2, and we'll expand that list in a moment, has the din of a chayla she'ein b'sakana. For the child tzrachim, says the Rama. Which means no one should have their 10-year-old that needs an Advil and don't give it to, let's not use a 10-year-old, I don't want to get complicated. No one should have a 3-year-old that needs Advil and not give it to them. For a child, they have a din of a chayla she'ein b'sakana, and it's mutter. Now, how old of a child? Question number 1. Question number 2 is, I just said fever. Fever is a very hotly contested topic in the world of Refuah. Moshe Feinstein has a tshuva, and he writes, I don't remember the exact number, I didn't look this up, I think it's something tells me it's 100.8, or maybe 101.8, one of the two. The point was, it's something that none of us in this room would consider a chayla sheish v'sakana. Ramosha writes chayla sheish v'sakana, go to the hospital. The question is, what exactly was Ramosha talking about? But the easiest way of explaining Ramosha is if you have fever and you don't know where it's from. There's a lingering fever that one has, a slightly high fever, that could be a problem. Again, this is everyone to consult with their own personal doctors, but that again would be an allowance. When it comes to children definitely under the age of 2 or 3, probably 5 or 6, and maybe 8 to 10. Well, what are the random numbers I just gave? The svara, the ideology is that a child can't deal with pain the same way that, this is the easiest way of explaining, same way that an adult can deal with pain. So it's good. If you have the common cold, you're not going to be bedridden. But if a 3-year-old has the common cold, he might not be bedridden because he doesn't know to ask to go to bed. But when he or she is walking around, just whatever you want to call it, everyone has their own terms for such a state in life, that's called a chayla. And it could be a 5, 6-year-old, a little bit more. It's very... Paiskim give different numbers. I'm trying to give a broad explanation so we can actually apply it lemaisa. Some Paiskim say 3-year-olds, some say 6, some say 8, some say all the way to bar mitzvah. But the point is, utilize the subjectivity and then figure it out within the case. If there's an 8-year-old that's complaining that whatever, then yeah, we're going to be much quicker to allow that child to take medicine. Now, there's another very big heter for every single chayla. What's a chayla? Chayla she'ein boi sakana. This is where we get additional heterim. This is called amira la'akum is mutter. What does it mean mutter? It means you don't do a remez, you don't ask a shayla, you go over to the guy and you ask them to do whatever the chayla wants. So for example, we just said that according to everyone, the 3-year-old is called a chayla. So you have, you have an infant at home, you have a 9-month-old at home, and it's this Shabbos, and it's 60 degrees today, and all of a sudden, boom, Shabbos is 45 degrees. And it's freezing. And your wife says, we'll blame it on the wives because they're not here, it's easier that way. And she says, we need to turn on the heat in the baby's room. No, who cares? The baby will be fine. No, we need to turn on the heat in the baby's room. The baby will be fine. You need to turn on the heat in the baby's room. Okay, so give the baby an extra blanket, Hashem Yirachim. The kid's 9 months old. You can't give a 9-month-old a blanket. What do you guys know? You can't give a 9-month-old. Okay, put on an extra stretchy, an extra sweatshirt. The answer is, the child has a din of a chayla. If you have a guy, you ask the guy to turn on the heat. Even though turning on the heat is a daraisa, the highest level, because turning on the heat is eish. I don't know if every heating system works this way. I think so. But the heating system with boilers, those are boilers, right? Those have fire in them also, right?
They're fire in them, but very often
it's on.
But then it goes into a storage tank so that there's always hot water, so it's only a grumma to the boiler.
Right. So okay, I don't know. Good. It might only be a derban. I'm in Eretz Yisrael's big split units on the wall, and those are deraisas to turn on the heat. But either way, we're being makel here, so we can let it be a deraisa. Yeah, it's definitely something aser, but you're allowed to ask the guy, and pashtus, there's no reason to even be machmir. Once the child has a din of a chayla, there's no reason to start, creating svaras. This is raya. Some people say not the way. Some people say, what do you mean? You can move the kid to a different room. Good. Let's say the kid won't sleep. Kid won't sleep with the light on. You have the guy turn off the light. Now, we're using the example of a child won't sleep for the guy to turn off the light, because whether you could have the light to be turned off for an adult that will have issues sleeping is not so simple. So let's just use cases that are simple for now. Another category of people that quickly fall into the case of a chayla, which need TLC, kipshutai, mu'uberes, a pregnant woman, or a postpartum woman. We'll get to her in a minute. A pregnant woman, it's not a rule. This is not a sivin shulchan aruch. But often, the mitzias is, as they say, if we were walking around lugging a 4-pound watermelon, we would be much worse. Much more, we complain that they complain. Forget about it. If guys had to be pregnant, it would never happen. Be much less children in this world. After one, there's no way any guy would do it again. So, they have a din of a chayla very quickly. Now again, it's not a rule. It's not a rule. Meaning, could be there's a woman that's 8 months pregnant and she's perfectly fine and she has a little bit of a headache and she shouldn't. But the mitzias is that often things are more of a big deal when there's a mubaris. This is a rule, is for the first month after Leda. Now this is a very big deal, because often that's also the time that in many houses you have help, you have a guy around, and in such a scenario, Amira La'akum is mutter for both the mami and the newborn. So if there's a guy, a cleaning lady, a baby nurse, whoever's in the house, at that month, you don't have to be worried about anything. Whether it's for the mami or whether it's for the child, it's all mutter. You could ask them to do whatever needs to be done. For the child, there's more of a heter past the month for at least the first year or two. Those are two categories of people that very quickly get into the world of a chayla. Again, that's a child, and that's a postpartum woman, and that's often a mubaris. Similarly, an elderly person. What age is elderly? Age of elderly. An elderly person often also gets into the world of a chayla she'ein by sakana, bedridden quicker, and therefore everything is mutter. Now, everything what we've spoken about. We're gonna end with this. Give everyone 2 minutes before mincha. What about course treatment? You're on the 4th day of antibiotics. How do you feel right now? You feel great. Are you allowed to take medicine right now? This is really $1 million shayla. And this is a little bit where you see the godless of Chazal. Say Chazal, based on a Chazanish, amongst other sources, that if one is taking medicine, a daily medication, it is mutter. Even though right now you feel fine. Ask many people, I understand, it's day 5 of the strep medicine, so just don't take it. So, as we said, this is often where the godless of Chazal come in, and the people that stop at day 5 usually don't do day 6 and 7, and within a week they're sick again, and they have strep times 2, and strep times 2 is much worse than strep times 1, and if anyone has ever been there, they know what's going on over there, and it gets difficult. So the answer is it's mutter. However, Shabbos is 24, 25 hours, 26, 27 hours, 28 hours, you want to be real chassid, 29 hours, okay, great. So if you're taking this medicine once a day, some medicines, not all of them, you could just take before Shabbos and after Shabbos. And therefore, you don't have to worry about it. If you are the type of person that if you were to do that, you're not going to do it and you're going to get sick, the Chazon Ish said, it is allowed to take medicine on Shabbos if it is a course treatment. And this is going to help, obviously, for elderly people. This will help often for a lot of allergy sufferers. Allergies often are course treatments you take every single day. If one could miss a day without any issue, some very low-level medications, it's like, yeah, I miss every third day. Okay, then miss Shabbos, But if one shouldn't, then Lamaisa, you could take it every single day. We'll end off with the allergies as, I don't know, is it allergy season now? No, not even close. Horrible example. Okay, so we'll end off with allergy season because it's not Nageya. And therefore, we're completely not Nageya B'davar. Often, the allergy sufferers in the world say that when the allergy season flares up, you can tell I'm not an allergy guy, I apologize, Baruch Hashem, not in the end of October, allergies, if you don't take medicine, can knock you out. Some people say, nah, don't worry about it, you just get a little cold. Right, those are all the guys who don't have allergies say about the guys with allergies. The guys with allergies say, yeah, you better believe it. If I don't take medicine, forget about it. So that would be a good example that would make you a chayle she'ein by sakana and allow medicine. Now, that's not a rule. There are some, I did see certain Sfarim, the right allergies are very subjective, and it's true. Some people, low-level allergies, you take a pill and it makes you feel better. You don't take the pill and you're okay, then that person should abstain. We'll pick it up from here and we'll probably finish off Refuah next week. And I'm just going to tell you what we're going to talk about. Is there a certain unique heterim, like taking medicine before you feel sick, and things like that, which often, the more you know beforehand, you could prevent a lot of situations. We'll talk about mixing medicines into foods. We'll talk about a lot of the advanced level heterim, which will allow us to, within the world of halacha, to be the Shomer Shabbos, but at the same time, somehow prevent some of the serious issues. Shkoyach, Chevra.